All right, we'll keep it short. Come on. Hey, listeners, and a special hey, hi, hello to all those patrons out there. Welcome to the Sci-Fi Sci under the Believe Podcast Network. It is indeed a podcast about Black science fiction and fantasy and staying on the same page as a family. Today for episode 99, we're going to be discussing the collection of short horror stories called Twisted Tales. Do you have it, Ben? There you go. Show it to all the cameras. Twisted Tales by a Black man, Brandon Massey. And then, as I've been reminding y'all, for our 100th episode, we're going to go live on Instagram from the Sci-Fi Sci Podcast Instagram to answer any questions that you have about Ben's culinary skills, sci-fi and fantasy, Amber's fabulous, flawless energy, and also how to run a podcast. So if you have any questions about how to run a podcast, we're going to open up some portals for you to drop those questions, and we're going to be answering those questions live. That live talk is happening Sunday, August 28th at 7 p.m. ET. I feel like it was 7 Central, but that's fine. Life's like this. You fall and you crawl and you rate what you get. Okay, so 7 p.m. ET. So mark your calendars for Sunday, August 28th. Remember, I just shouted out the patrons at the top of the episode. If you are interested in being a patron, that means, hey, I like what Amber, Ben, Wow, Lynn, and Gucci are doing. I want to support the Wallen family with my pockets, okay? Like a real nickel. You can donate $1, $2, or $5 a month on Patreon, and you can find the link to the Patreon in the episode notes. Special shout out to Sarah Harmon, Darian Boyd, Misha Washington, Emerald Hall, Gabriel, Melanie, Catherine Schwab, Imani, Ebony, Nicole, and Molly Basinger. We'll be shouting out other patrons as we go along, but now let's go ahead and get started with the show. Ben, how have you been doing?
I flew with a baby for the first time.
You flew? Just you alone, huh?
Yeah, I held her and she cuddled. We put some headphones on her. She looked cute.
She did look like a cutie. You know, babies are actually like a little bit easier on a flight than I would have imagined. So It really encourages me to like keep living my life.
They're like easier than you on a flight.
No, they're not. I'm pretty easy on a flight.
You get pretty anxious. You're like, getting moving around,
that
getting
is
from
not
one place
true.
to another, making sure you're not late.
I'm easy peasy on a flight. You're the one who's like going to the bathroom 17 times.
I do have to. Yeah, but
I'm like, you need to get that aisle seat because the window seat for you is like no bueno.
Yeah, but it doesn't bother me that I have to go a bunch. I will never ever forget. And I think we brought this up before. Like you were late. You missed a flight once, and you called me upset. And on that phone conversation, you're like, "Oh my God, a baby just got in my way. I want to kick him." And I was like,
yeah, because someone had their toddler just wandering aimlessly. Like, you know how you see a kid roaming and you're like, oh, the parent's right there. This kid's parent was nowhere in sight. So I'm like, who has abandoned their baby in an airport? Like, you know how dangerous airports are for all kinds of things. We all know what happens at airports and what kind of danger they're like. So I was like, why is a 2-year-old just randomly walking in front of me right as I've missed this flight? Like, I want to kill this child, their parent, the person who took forever to check my bag. Oh, I'm sorry. I should have been just chipper and fine and dandy after I missed a flight. Is that what you expect from me?
No, I mean, but, life happens. You go on. You don't have to turn into, a baby kicker.
I did. And did I kick said baby?
No, but you did in your mind.
In my mind? I think
is there a difference between doing something physically and doing it in your mind? I don't know.
There's a huge difference. Who amongst us hasn't kicked someone's baby in our minds? I'd be hard pressed to find that person. But we did fly. Where did we fly to, Ben?
We flew to L.A. and we LA'd.
Yes, we've probably been talking about LA for the last couple of weeks, but we have officially signed a lease. We have officially put down that first, last, and security. So we are officially broke. Ain't that right, Ben?
Yeah. Actually,
well, we're broke for like the next couple of weeks, but we're thriving in our hearts.
We're broke and thriving.
Is there a difference between being broke in our dreams and broke in real life like you just did?
No. I want a shirt that says broke and thriving.
Broke yet thriving.
Broke yet thriving.
Oh, goodness.
Your mom threw us talking about thriving, your mom threw us a going away party. That was a thriving party.
I know. She basically invited everybody I had ever known ever.
80 people.
Yeah. If somebody isn't like violently ill after this, I'll be shocked and appalled. I think it's so funny. Like during the party.
Sorry, let me clarify. So you would be shocked
if someone was not violently ill.
So you want someone to get violently
ill?
No,
I'm just saying, like, there's no way every one of us is healthy after that party.
But appalled is like that.
Yes.
So you're going to feel like someone should get sick.
Yeah, I'd be like, someone's a liar. If
so
everybody took a test and nobody's came back, like I would be shocked. I'd be like, somebody's test.
Oh, you're talking about like COVID, like
someone
someone should have gotten COVID.
Seasonal germs, anything. Ringworms,
so
fleas and ticks.
You like when people get sick?
I don't.
Like caring person, like you like to care for people. So when
yes,
someone gets sick, then it gives you an opportunity to care for somebody.
It just reminds me that we're all going to die one day. It's like this is the natural order of things, right?
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, the party was bumping. Did you have fun at the spades table? Embarrassing me?
Oh, I didn't embarrass you. I mean,
okay, so you're the person that's sick.
I am. Great. Separate. No, I'm actually coughing because your mom gave us some sweet potato pie, homemade sweet potato pie. I mean, the crust, I don't think it was.
It wasn't my mom's. It wasn't my mom's sweet potato pie. So, but why are you coughing?
Because I had some of the crust stuck in my throat.
So you're saying the pie was bad?
The pie was delicious. I'm saying the crust could have been more buttery for my taste. It was homemade.
Well, why don't
Southern,
you go downstairs and tell my mom that about
sweet
her
potato
friend's pie?
It was her friend's pie who brought it over from the party.
Right. I mean, there were so many sweets we're all just like eating on for the next couple of days. It was so funny that people were coming up to me at the party being like, oh my God, I can't believe you're leaving. I'm like, I have lived in another city from y'all for the past decade. But for some reason, like this West Coast move is like earth shattering to people. Yeah, it's further. I understand that. Yeah. They're like, well, we're used to Chicago. We're not used to this other thing. They're like wells in their eyes looking at me like that. I was like, interesting, because I don't live here. Y'all know that, right?
LA will probably feel more like Athens than Chicago felt like Athens.
Really?
Yeah, because LA requires more car traffic, right? We're in Athens right now, like small Georgia, college town. You need a car. There's more people.
Yeah, you do need a car.
Oh, there's the phone.
That landline.
Someone still has a landline. That makes zero fucking sense to me.
Oh,
but
God.
Like most things in the South.
Just let it ring. It's funny because the only people that even call them on this landline are like telemarketers.
The telemarketers.
And they still refuse to part with it.
Yeah, why? We need to bring them up here and like investigate.
Okay, whatever. Would you like me to answer it and then hang it up?
No, because it's
right.
probably an important telemarketer that your mom wants to buy.
Oh God! Did you enjoy the party? You had Ben gave like a little speech at the party that was like
give a little speech.
Sweet and kind and warm.
It was great. I quoted the book of Ruth. Everyone should read it. It's a classic piece of literature. It's about one of my favorite Bible lesbian relationships.
Oh, Ruth and Naomi.
Yeah, Ruth and Naomi. They're boning.
I missed that when I read it, but I'm sure if I went back and read it.
So Ruth at the beginning, Ruth chapter 1. Ruth and Naomi sort of decide to stay together. Naomi tries to get Ruth to go back to her people after Ruth's husband dies. And Ruth says to Naomi, don't urge me to leave you or turn back from you. Where you go, I will go. And where you stay, I will stay. Your people will be my people. Isn't that great?
Yeah. So at the party, like Ben knows we're at the Bible Belt. So he kind of just ended with like, this is my home, y'all.
Yeah.
Like, where you go, I go. Where you stay, I stay.
Yeah.
Your people will be my people.
I always tell Amber, Athens feels like the most solid place for me, just because we always have a place to stay here. We always have sweet potato pie. There will always be a landline here, So this definitely
and
felt
a
like
heart
the most
line, right?
And a heart line.
And a line from heart to another. But I feel like now that, I don't know, that whole thing has kind of become our adage, our mantra every day. It's like, it's kind of like how yesterday I needed a fry.
You did. And
you're kind of like, where you go, I go.
Where you go.
Where you stay, I stay.
Which was ridiculous. We go because Athens has started, back in school, the college town, and we go to, Popeyes, just lines. Or it wasn't Popeyes, it's
like Raising Cane's.
Oh, Raising Cane's.
And then we went to Zaxby's. There was a line there. There were lines literally everywhere. But that's okay. That's not what the show is about. This show is truly about Black science fiction and fantasy, and also where you go, I go. Where you stay, I stay. Your people will be my people. So another way that you can get involved and go where we go and stay where we stay and be our people and your people and all that is giving us ratings on Apple Podcasts or Google Podcasts or wherever. We love so much reading y'all's ratings. So we wanted to go ahead and do that now, right, Ben?
Oh, yeah. I'll go ahead and read a rating for y'all.
Go ahead, yeah.
Yeah, so this is from Candyland Sam. Candyland Sam says, you don't need to love sci-fi to enjoy this pod.
Yes.
I've never read or watched any sci-fi, but this is such a great, funny intro to the genre, and I love how they weave in aspects of their marriage and life. Thanks for sharing your passion, family, and humor with us.
Your people will be my people.
That's
I
it.
love that. Thank you. If we were to write down like who is our target audience for this podcast when we decided to do this, it was literally people who don't like sci-fi and fantasy, aka Amber. And so Ben, you have made us all like fall in love with it, even though we're not as well versed in it. So, because I never in my life thought I could run a sci-fi and fantasy podcast.
You're running it really
I'm
well
running
too.
it. We're running
You're running it.
All right. Well, you want to jump into the conversation, baby?
We can, but before, can you just talk to me a little bit about your hair? I've never seen this sort of style you got going on right now. You look really cute. Can you describe for our listeners, our viewers, you can see, describe for our listeners.
What made you think about that?
Because I just finished a book by Nikki Drayden. She's a Black science fiction author. And in it, it's a sort of space opera. And in it, all the people on one of the ship, they're all Black. So they all come from, Africa when they left Earth, when Earth was sort of going under. And so the way they braid their hair determines like what line of family they come from. So like hair braiding is super, super important in the book.
Yeah.
And so
and
I saw
the
you.
life part too,
yeah. And sort of culturally. And it was the other thing is because you don't really find out that the people are Black until sort of the end of the book explicitly when they meet another group of humans that are all white and they use like racialized term. And so I was reading a review where it's like, oh, I didn't know that these people were Black. But if you were reading carefully, because she's describing everyone's Black on the ship and they talk about lighter or darker skin, but they talk about braids and hair texture and hairstyles. And that is like all the code for like Black. So this author didn't pick that up until the end of the book.
Right.
Yeah, the critic didn't pick that up. So I was thinking about that.
Was it a critic or just somebody that reviewed it?
Someone who reviewed it.
Which I guess.
I guess a reviewer is a critic. We're critics.
So we're critics. We're critics.
We review something, we critique it. Yeah.
I guess if talking about my hair, so I think if you're white, maybe I'm doing something really fun and funky. And if you're Black, you're like, oh, that. So my hair is already braided in blonde braids and my sides are shaved. And then I just have like 2 French braids like down the back, like Dorothy.
Yeah, like Dorothy.
In The Wizard of Oz.
Yeah.
But I just really needed my hair out of my face today to get some stuff done, housekeeping and stuff. So I braided the braids. Cute. Very meta. And Ben is feeling it.
But I've never seen you don't do this. I know other people do this, but you don't do this.
I guess I don't do this. Let me know.
You look great.
Sound off in the comments if you're watching this on YouTube.
This is just basic, right? This is just.
I think you'd like it because it's like out of my face and like you can see me.
I could see your more beautiful round face, cute little dimples. There's a little dimple. Oh man, I could just kiss it all.
Did you see those pictures? I showed Ben some baby pictures of me earlier today, and I was like, now who does that look just like? Miss Wiggles.
Yeah.
Yeah, so
wild.
I think wild. Yes, as she gets older, you're not gonna see yourself in her. It's gonna be a full Amber. It's just like a light skin Amber.
Important note: we need to start calling Wild by her name.
Oh my God! Yeah.
Because at the party, your Aunt Rapunzel was telling us she works at a school that all the kindergartners go by like Fatty or Miss Thing or like they go by like different names. And so they don't know their name, Ladybug.
Yeah.
So they don't know their names. And so the teachers like had to the principal sent an email to all parents being like, hey, can you please like teach your child their first name?
What's wrong with nicknames though?
Nothing.
Literally almost every famous person we know, we only know their nickname or their stage name.
That's fair.
Or like drag queens. Like, I don't think it's like that outlandish that like just call the kid their nickname. Is that like that problematic?
No, then it's like, why give a name anyway if you're gonna just call them by that nickname? Like, think of the nickname and then give them that name.
So we should have named her Wiggles.
Yeah.
Well, the nickname typically comes from a behavior.
Yeah. So
how would I have anticipated that she was such a little wiggly
we shouldn't.
worm?
They should be nameless until
they do some sort of behavior.
Some sort of behavior. Then we get their birth certificate. So maybe a kid is not alive, is not a living human being until they get their name, and they only get their name after they develop some sort of personality trait.
But what if their personality changes over time? Then do you just keep changing it?
Yeah, you keep changing their name.
Got
Make it
it.
super easy for people to change their name.
Got it. Heard. Okay.
That's sort of a science fictional idea.
Speaking of twisting up names, Ben, what did we read again?
All right, we read this collection of short stories.
Give me that fucking book.
Give me that fucking book.
Let me say this before you break it down. I'm showing this to the camera right now. I was so shocked and appalled, as I like to say, because at first there was no audiobook for this. Y'all know how I am. I like to read a book and listen to the audio. That way I can like still pump my boobies and read a book and all those kind of things. So this had no audiobook. So at first I was like furious with Ben. And I cannot tell you how happy I was to be so wrong about this book. I read it so quickly. Like I basically read it in a weekend because it was so entertaining and horror stricken. That's a horrible way to describe that. And like it gave you everything. This book was like a Beyonce album. Like it had country and rock and reggaeton. Like this book, I was scared at some points. I was sweating. I was horny. I was sad.
Oh, yeah.
I was laughing.
The succubi episode where he like gets a blowjob by the succubi. Yeah, that I forgot.
Did that not?
Yeah, I had to put it down and like, okay, Amber, come in here, or like phone out.
That makes sense. I definitely think there was one night you were extra horny.
Yeah, I was like,
what's going on with him?
Put
I was like, I'm here for it. But what's going on with him? Okay, let's talk about it. Sorry. I am so erect for this book.
It's a great book. Let's talk about some of the themes. So a few weeks ago, your dad showed us his collection of...
I know where this is going now, but
yeah.
I'm sorry. Coming off of this book made me so horny conversation, I was like, wait, what?
Your dad showed us his collection
of obituaries. Like a few weeks ago, your dad showed us his. I was like, his
why is
what?
His obituaries.
Whoops. What?
His obituaries. Showed us his... and also during the party 2 days ago, he was going around showing his...
Oh, my God.
His mom's gravestone.
My dad is so awkward. I'm talking low because he's getting off work soon. But he will literally, like, during the going away party, he will walk up to you having a conversation and show you a picture of my grandma's tombstone, so his mother, which is sad and beautiful. He's really proud that they finally got the tombstone finished. But, like, just imagine, like, two people, like, having fun. Like, oh, my God, Amber,
drinking,
so good to see you. And then my dad's just like,
tequila.
have you seen this? And they're like,
just finished the tombstone.
Oh, like, we're all drunk. Like, why? Like, why are you interrupting our conversations to show us this headstone right now? But okay. Yes, my dad's very socially awkward.
He's sort of, and he does collect like memorials and obituaries. And there's a story in here about an older woman who collects obituaries.
Yes, there is.
And once she finds out someone dies, she calls everybody. And she's like, she needs to like let people know and stuff. And so
that's like something about getting old where you're like, I have to know who died. Or my dad's also like that with like the police blotter. Like he's like, your classmate, so-and-so got locked up. And I'm like,
for driving drunk and
it was
flipping
child
over a car.
molestation. I'm like, okay, Dad, thank you. Thank you. This is probably some guy that like bullied me in 6th grade. This all tracks. He was shit then and he ain't shit now. Like, he's like, and then I saw so-and-so got a DUI. I'm just like, Dad, you got to get some hobbies. I mean, I guess collecting obituaries and like reading the police
like trading. What's the difference between that and like collecting Pokemon cards?
Yes.
It's like obituary collection is Pokemon cards for old folks.
Yeah.
Older folks.
So yeah, there is a short story in here where this old lady collects obituaries, and then one day, there's no obituary in the newspaper, and she's like, "Oh, my dad's home," and she's like, "What the fuck? There's no way nobody died. Like, where the fuck are my obituaries?" She's like fiending for them.
Yeah, and it turns out that the dead start to haunt her until she can get like an obituary written up and starts calling people. So it's sort of this idea that the importance of reading obituaries is a way of passing on and deals with memory and honoring the dead. It's a beautiful little story. So I thought that was pretty good. The other story this made me think of is your dad. I mean, this made me think of a lot of your dad, but your dad keeps on going to your grandma's house. Like there's this whole thing right now.
Yeah.
So your late grandma died a couple of years ago,
Yep.
Right at the beginning of COVID.
Yeah.
And there's been talk about sort of, renting that space out or Airbnb-ing it. And I think your dad is just sort of hesitant. He can't really let go of that house because he grew up in that house as a kid.
Right. And then he's like, I can't really go. He just pulled up, so he might pop in here in a minute. But yeah, he's like, I can't do that because then I can't go over here and like see it every day.
Yeah.
Or what happens if some like tenant just like trashes this place? Like,
it's very sacred to him. He goes over and he like mows the lawn, or he'll go and just like open and he'll walk around, and I could see him just like maybe sitting down in the dining room.
Yeah.
And just looking at it for a moment. Your grandma's china cabinet is still there with china that probably hasn't been used for 30 years, but it's there.
It is. It's just like when we were saying there, it's like, this is just a way of like to bring life back to loss. And I really like that. Was the obituary story one of your favorite stories?
It was, but the one
so many favorite stories.
that was even better was nostalgia, because there's a boy who grew, who lives with his grandma and then moves out of his grandma's to pursue his career down in, I think, Atlanta, right? So he's like in sort of a Chicago suburb, and he moves to Atlanta to pursue his career of like writing. And when he leaves, the house catches fire and burns down. It's him dealing with that guilt.
Yes.
And it made me think a lot of your dad, because your dad has expressed like guilt. I remember.
Yeah, he was like, I go visit my mom every day, and then like I didn't go for like a day and a half, and then she passed.
And I remember like when it happened, we were hanging out, and your dad just like smacked his hands, like, I should have been there. Like that. It just made me think a lot of like.
You okay? Your elbow.
Yeah, I'm fine. I got elbowed, but it, connecting it to like the people we know, but that guilt is so heavy.
Like that, like after someone passed.
Yeah. Well, my grandfather died. Gave my parents this nice Ford Focus that was a little sporty, up to date, and I freaking wrecked it. I just flipped the car over. I was like,
what happened?
I had drank a little.
What age was this?
Like 16.
Okay, give the full tea.
Yeah, no, I was like, I lost a basketball game, and I went to a friend's house, drank like 2 Michelob. They were Michelobes. So I was like a little tipsy, and I was just so angry about this basketball and my coach.
You drank 2 beers?
Yeah, and I flipped the car over.
After 2 beers?
After I was speeding, I took a car.
You should feel guilty.
And I was just so, yeah. It
was the actual wreck worse than the guilt, or which one was worse?
Oh, the guilt was way worse. I wish
Gosh, did your parents like lay it on thick too?
No, they didn't say anything. That was the worst part.
Oh, that's bad.
Yeah, I had to take a breath.
You can say so much with saying nothing.
I didn't get a ticket. This was like zero tolerance. Like my whiteness really saved me on that one.
Yeah, damn. That guilt got your black ass.
Man, they could have taken my license away for.
You were 16.
Months.
You drank 2 beers. 2 beers had you flipping a car.
Yeah.
I
think I was 17.
To be fair, it was a Ford Focus. Like, it's not like a really like strong, ready for battle kind of car. Mm. Damn. There's a joke in there somewhere, but I won't.
There's
like the
joke
focus.
It.
No.
Focus. More like fuck us. Fuck us. I had a teammate. She had a thick Polish accent, and every time she would say "focus," like we were running, fuck us.
Y'all need to fuck us.
And we would make fun of her for that.
Oh.
Just making fun of people for their accent.
Just
a long American tradition.
Being called a Focus, and then someone's like in it, unfocused and crashing it.
Yeah, that was
the whole grandpa part. Isn't funny, but like
stupid.
Oh God, I'm super sorry. So one of my favorite stories in here. Let's peruse. I'm sorry if you had like as you're looking through and sort of thinking, talking about disappointing children. The first story is called Daddy's Little Girl. Yep. And the children weren't disappointing. It was like a helicopter dad. Yeah, a helicopter dad who was like controlling of his daughter. It's like following her on the date and stuff. And it was written in such a way where you're sort of like, it seemed as if the author was sympathizing with the father. Yeah, okay, let's back up. You know how if you watch You on Netflix, the writing is so well done, and they've done such a great job choosing Penn Badgley that you're sometimes on his side and you're sometimes not. Well, Brandon Massey does a really great job of doing that. Like sometimes you're like, is it that bad? Or I mean, and I know it's a book, so you're like, well, you know something's coming, but something in me sometimes is just like, oh, well, maybe this person isn't the villain, or like, because he does have quite a few like really cool twists in his stories. And,
Twisted Tales.
Hence the name, Twisted Tales. Nothing is what it seems. So in the first story, Daddy's little little girl, just the one.
Yeah. So it is. This guy seems to be this, murderous kind of man who's a helicopter parent of his like 20-something-year-old daughter. So it says Daddy's little girl, but the little girl is a woman. She's a grown woman, and this man is undercover trying to figure out if this father is like evil or something.
Yeah, a man like she goes on a date with. Yeah.
And she's like, it's just my dad. It's just who he is. And she's going on and sort of disregarding this really creepy behavior.
Very creepy. And you also have the context that the girl's mother has died as well. Yeah. So you go back and forth to being like, oh, maybe the dad's just like really protective because he recently lost his wife who was murdered, and now his only living family member is his daughter. So he's going on the date with her, showing up at the table across their dinner.
Follows them on their date. Like, I will never follow Wild on her date. Like, you don't follow your child. We're not going to do that, like,
on one date?
No. That's such a betrayal of trust.
What if she doesn't come back on time? Then
you call the cops, and then you call the army. Yeah, you call the army. You call the FBI. You
the
call
National Guard, the Marines,
you
the
call
Navy SEALs.
The Bureau of Paranormal Investigation, which is from Hellboy. You call everybody.
What age can she like fully go on dates by herself? Like
30.
This is like, I watched a lot of The Proud Family growing up. It's like one of like Oscar Proud's pretty much like character traits at this point is like making sure Penny like never goes on dates. It's like, are there gonna be boys there? Like that's just like his whole bit, which is like funny because it's like, oh, all of our dads were like that. But there's a little sometimes like, all right, Oscar, goddamn, like. Let the bitch have a party. Like, relax.
I think there's this weird.
She also might be a lesbian.
Antigone complex. I think when fathers are too protective to this extreme, there was a level of sexual tension between the father and the daughter. And I think that's what Brandon Massey is sort of getting towards. And at the end, we find out like the father and the daughter are actually werewolves. And it's really creepy. So this guy is like walking around with a silver handgun to kill the father because he turns out he knows about werewolves. And there's a nice, really sweet twist at the end where in actuality, there's this, and it becomes way bigger, is that the man hunting the werewolf is himself a werewolf, but there's a very specific law of werewolves in which you have to follow an order and you just can't kill indiscriminately. You have to be selective in your kills. And I thought that was a nice little twist of the werewolf story. Yeah. Where the werewolf hunter is himself a werewolf trying to keep the code of werewolves. I thought that was pretty nice.
Yeah, so Daddy's Little Girl was a strong start. I'm going to be honest. If you're reading this book, the best stories are in the end. I'm sure he did that on purpose because he did a great job like warming us up. So my favorite story is a story called Presumed Dead. It's about this guy named Mike B. And we start the story where he's faking his own death with like a suicide letter in the car. He's got the car that runs off of the road and they never find the body, but they still have a funeral for him, all of that.
Because he owes money.
He's a local gambler and he owes Big Daddy J in town a lot of money. So
everybody owes Big Daddy J money.
Everybody owes this motherfucker money. But Mike B decides to fake his own death and he moves to Georgia. There's a lot of like southern to northern, which is great.
Specifically Chicago to Atlanta.
Yes. So he moves down south to Atlanta and starts his new life as like Ricky, and he meets this girl named Keisha and they get married and they're together, whatever. And so 8 years goes by and he too, I love that, some of the character. Ooh,
I'm trying to get close. I'm trying to shift myself closer to you.
Move that.
I just bust all the camera.
I love that like some of the things that characters do in these stories, like none of the stories are really connected, but some of the things that characters do keep coming back up. So in this story, obviously Mike B is daily checking the obituaries because he wants to see if Big Daddy J has eventually died. So it takes 8 years for Big Daddy J, this like old timer gambler or like loan shark, I guess you could say, like to die. And so then Mike B, who's, you know, his appearance has changed, but he's like, I can go back home now. I can see my old stomping grounds. And obviously, I'm not going to tell the whole thing, but obviously he goes there and is like recognized by this other guy who owed Big Daddy J money named Peanut. But apparently Peanut had died years before too. So it's like this cool like zombie gangster shit. And it's so good. Yeah, it's so fucking good.
It turns out like Big Daddy J actually lives forever, and he keeps on like he puts makeup on to make himself look
like
older,
his son or whatever.
And so he sort of is like playing this game, and he turns people into zombies. It's really fantastic.
Get your money. That is the season I'm in right now. Every day I'm telling Ben, now that we've paid that rent money, I was like, this is a stick up. Like the money, put the money in the bag, and no one gets hurt is the energy that I'm on right now.
Yeah, work hard,
like,
play hard,
working hard, get into
never
that
grow
bag.
old.
So would you ever fake your death?
No, I was thinking what instance in which I would fake my death. If I was in a really unhappy relationship, I would maybe fake my death, because then my widow could get some money and then I can move on to my life. So it's like if I wasn't vibing with you as strong,
fake your death than get a divorce.
Yeah, because then it would be less guilt, and divorces are long, they're expensive, there's more drama. Fake your own death.
Just die.
She cries
because that doesn't take any like life insurance policy, a funeral.
Yeah, but she takes out. But if we're not getting along, then you're gonna do a very cheap funeral.
Right.
Just burn me. Just throw me in like.
Just burn me.
Just burn me.
Well, yeah, you do want to be cremated, so I guess I'm like painting this picture of somebody else, but like.
Yeah.
So if you ever turn up missing or something, I'm just gonna assume you're faking your death.
Yeah, no, don't even burn. You don't even buy a plot of land.
Right.
Just make a little cross in the back. I think it's a great idea. Fake your own death. You can get a pretty cheap
like
death certificate in India, I think.
I mean, there are some. I mean, I was just up to so much debt, but even in the book, he was like
debt. Yeah.
Like, when we think about stuff like Squid Games and things like that, it's like, how much debt would it take for me to like go into this game? Because I'm never going to ask like, would you ever go into the Squid Games? It's like, at what number of debt would I go into it? And for me, I feel like it would be like in the millions. So in this story, I mean, I think he owed Big Daddy J like $100K.
Yeah, he owed him a decent amount of money. Yeah.
Like, am I tripping? I was like, you could have paid that back eventually, maybe. I don't know.
Yeah, I think this person also came from like a different economic status than us, in the sense like 100K is something people our age could possibly especially
with
our
a payment plan and a couple of like
if you have a regular consistent job. This guy was a gambler, didn't really have a consistent job, all that stuff.
Yeah,
but
I don't know. I got to go back and look and see how much the guy from Squid Games was in debt. Like, and I'm not saying 100K is not a lot of money. Like, that is a lot of money, but to fake your own death, 100K feels pretty low.
Yeah.
Like I would need to be in the hole like at least $1 million.
$1 million. The great thing about all these stories as well is, all the characters are black. There's not really like a lot of like
and they
tension.
feel black.
Yeah.
Like the dialogue, the spirituality, like a lot of the traits of the people like are so clearly black, and the locations and things like that, which I really appreciate.
Because he takes a lot of his stories, a couple of them take place in like an Atlanta suburb, and we've driven to some Atlanta suburbs, which is, Amber's telling me, it's like these are black neighborhoods, like
and they're thriving,
black suburban neighborhoods. This is a black mecca. It's really like nothing else in the U.S. in that sense. Yeah. But there is this level of, what I think it's called, the Hornets. There's a story about this man, the Sting. This man, he went to UGA, your alma mater, and he goes. I think he lives in Atlanta, so he sort of goes into the country for like a family gathering, right? Mm-hmm. And at this family gathering, he sort of kicks out this root woman who's been part of the family for years.
But her name's like not on the list.
Yeah, her name's not on the list, and she ends up cursing him. And it plays with this tension between like black suburban folk and black country folk.
Yes.
Which is something I've like never really encountered or read. The first time I encountered it was sort of like meeting your family, is that there are people from your family who are like black suburban folk, and then people from your family who are black country folk. And there is a tension there due to like class and education and even like culture, like what kinds of foods. It is so unique. And it shows the diversity of like American black culture, which oftentimes American black culture is sort of lumped into one thing. It's like East Coast, West Coast rap. Like that's what people, I think white people specifically, how I was brought up is like you had East Coast, so rap, and West Coast rap.
Yeah. No, I guess stylistically they're very different. And I mean, I think they're in tension or they have friction, but I wouldn't say like those tensions are on the rise. Like, and I would say that because I feel like over and over again, whoever the matriarchs of the family are, they're on that more countryside.
Yeah.
It's like you've given life to these children that can now be suburbanites if they want to be. But like at the end of the day, like the root and foundations of these family structures are like from these backwoods and from these country roads, and so there's a reverence there.
I didn't know really until I sat down with your mom, like how country.
Oh yeah.
Like she grew up. Like she grew up on a farm,
wrangled pigs,
like milk.
nine.
I was because we are so bombarded with these images of like LA black folk and like New York City black folk who are rappers, drug dealers, and shooters. They're not farmers. And that's just completely, that narrative is completely false.
Yeah, but when it comes to like our grandparents who were like bred on those like very country roads and grounds, like we all have a reverence for them. So that's why I don't agree with the tension.
No, I guess the tension that he explores is like the college-educated
in the book.
black folk.
Yes, like it's like, oh, you all Hollywood now that you don't got your degrees and you think
that's what he explores, and he's like, I can't wait to get out of these country roads. He's like, he wants to get back to Atlanta and to the city, and he makes a comment how like, Mississippi bugs are just bigger. They're sort of in the backwoods of Mississippi,
right?
And it's very funny, and and the ending is also like, pretty intense, but he refuses to apologize to this root woman who he's turned away and was incredibly rude and disrespectful to this elder. And I was like, oh man,
because she wasn't on the VIP list.
Because she wasn't on
the cookout,
the family reunion cookout. Like this guy is such a dick, and I don't know. It was pretty fantastic to see the justice where he goes back to her. He eventually apologizes, but it's a fake apology. He says, please stop these hornets from, attacking me. And
she's like hallucinating, and like, she put that hex on him.
Yeah.
That hex on him.
And she's like, okay, I'll take care of the hornets, but then the snakes get him.
Yes. Period. A woman's wrath. A woman scorned. I also love it because of that. My other, I think this is my absolute favorite story. It's called The Last Train Home. It is perfect because it's the last book. It's the last tale in the book. When I tell you, I think that chapter was 40 pages and it felt like 30 seconds. Like I was on the edge of my seat. I don't even want to talk about it. Like just know it's one of those like harrowing tales where this woman is being like kind of stalked by this guy at her job, and then like she's the only one riding her train home, and then she looks up and he's on that train too. Like I'm talking, your heart will be beating, you will be sweating, the pages will be turning, and then you're gonna blink and all the pages are gonna be gone, and you're gonna really enjoy it. And it's set in like Zion,
but she
lives at Zion, Illinois. She works in the city.
Yeah, and I don't really see this often when books about Chicago. I've been reading a lot of books that take place in Chicago, and they sort of just associate Chicago suburbs, Chicago Loop with every other type of neighborhood. But he makes a clear distinction that Chicago commuters going from suburbs to downtown, they ride they ride the Metro. Right. And he makes that statement. So
as somebody who's rode the Metro, like he wrote it so vividly. Like it's
freaky.
like, oh, you can tell this person like not only did their research, but like has either lived there a short period of time or has been there. They just did a really great job capturing like the look and feel and the bustle of like that long commute on the metro, that double decker. And so especially if you are familiar with Chicago, like everybody should read this book, but especially if you're familiar with Chicago or Atlanta, you will really, really, really appreciate his writing.
He makes women, he writes a couple of like pretty badass women.
Yes, he does.
But he's
really
also not
well.
super kind to them as well. So they're not like completely without, some sort of like pain or suffering. So
but I think he paints an accurate picture of like, women do go through this. Like they go through the catcalling and they go through the stalking. Like I would not read this and say he's unkind to women. I think he's like so clearly like talked to women in his family or women that he's dated and really captured their experience of like, dang, like bitches be fearing for their lives out here.
I think there's this line when men write women where they write this strong female character who always, wins type of thing, right? And nothing really bad happens to them. But what he does is that he does this kill your darlings type of thing where they do have to go through trial and they do suffer and they almost lose, but they fight back. And one of his most powerful stories is predators. And essentially in this story, women who've been sexually assaulted band together to form this secret society of women assassins, and they go around kidnapping
like
predators.
Girl with the Dragon Tattoo.
Yes, no, it's exactly that.
But it's a group, not.
It's a group.
Just the one baddie.
Yeah, and you don't really know.
Sorry if that spoiled that.
It's
movie.
it's the whole spoilers abound. But in this story, it's so cool and it's very expansive. But these women end up taking these men who spend like 8 months for like raping a child or something.
Yeah,
and he sort of gets into that a lot of these like sexual offenders.
Like they have been convicted, served their very short sentences, and now are back on the prowl
again. And so. But they send them off to like a farm or something where we don't know what happens there, but it's presumably they're sort of maybe forced to just sleep or to be rehabilitated. Yeah. I'm curious. I don't know where else he would go with predators.
There's another book. We have to read him again because he's so good. Like, and he's so slept on. Like I haven't heard of him prior to this book. How did you find this book?
So in the back of Bitterroot.
Okay.
This was one of the selections that they recommend reading. So Bitterroot was a comic series that Amber and I covered a couple of weeks ago, and in the back they have all these interviews and stuff. And so Brandon Massey was one of them that they recommended. Another one that we're going to read, Darkly, as well, is something that I got from that selection. I was like, these smaller publishing companies who publish this kind of work is not mainstream horror. And I was like, this is important. We got to read this guy.
Did you hit him up?
I did. Yeah. I said, I really love this book. He emailed me back. He's like, thank you so much. Like, I'll have to check out the episode that y'all do. Huge thing. Authors love when people send them messages. Like, get their emails, be like, hey, this book really moved it.
Especially like underrated, really, really talented authors like Brandon, I'm sure. Because like,
if y'all read a book and love the author, send them like a message. Because it means something to them. They spend a lot of freaking time. Writing is really difficult.
It does. And it's hard to just, Ben Daly is like writing, like not only just doing like daily like warm-ups and things like that, but he's just like really working on some really great stuff. I don't want to like put all your stuff out there or whatever, but I'm seeing secondhand the work it takes to like be a writer and have that discipline, and to just hear from somebody, I guess, that's like not your wife or your partner or your kid that you're working like hard is really satisfying. And somebody who's read your work too, because I'm sure tons of these authors, even when they are interviewed, it's not an interview by somebody who's actually read their book, right?
Yeah. Well,
like we've interviewed some people and they're like, "Oh, you read it? Like that's awesome."
I think less so now, believe it or not. I think it's sort of more common now if you're interviewing an author that you've probably read their book, especially with podcasts, because maybe,
but I feel like back in the day, like if you were on Oprah or you were on Trevor Noah or whatever, not back in the day, like, last week, that like he's so busy. I feel like
Oprah reads
Jimmy
the
Kimmel
book,
didn't read your book. Like,
maybe not Jimmy Kimmel, but I feel like Trevor Noah and Oprah Winfrey read the book.
Maybe.
I feel like they're readers.
I feel like they're so busy and they're like, hey, this is the hot new author on the block. Like, maybe read a couple of their excerpts here, but you're going to interview them next week. Like, I just feel like They're not reading those books.
Maybe.
They're so busy. They interview people all the time.
Speaking of busy, we're gonna have a busy drive back. We're driving back soon, and instead of doing to Chicago, we're making that trip. And actually, there's a story in here called "A Walk Through Darkness," and he writes about driving.
I don't remember that one.
He writes about driving from Chicago to Atlanta, and there's this point where so it's a man, he's cheating. His wife is cheating on her husband with him. And they kill the husband. They kill the husband, and they're like driving his body away to like bury it or whatever.
Yep.
But the husband comes back. But when the husband catches him, it's sort of in this section of Tennessee that we have driven through,
like the Appalachian.
Yeah, those Smoky Mountains, sort of near Dolly Parton's like land.
Period.
And it gets really desolate up there. It's sort of scary. One time we were driving, you see the smoke coming down. So I was thinking, all right, driving that late at night, pulling over, and there's a scene that made I got goosebumps.
Yes.
And he sort of gets.
This was giving goosebumps all the way through. I was like, ooh.
Or like that time we stopped at that gas station, and there was like poop on the ceiling. Like there's some sketchy land. Do you remember that?
I didn't go in there. I don't think.
Yeah.
I let you go, and you ran back out. You were like, I can't.
Yeah, it was bad.
Yikes.
Yeah, I think most of the income from that small little gas station was coming from like the little lotto machine or like the slot machine they had.
Yeah.
So it was a gas station in the middle of Tennessee with a slot machine.
I can't do it. Did this book make you, I don't know, something about his writing felt like Ben could do this for me. Like as I was reading his short stories, like obviously he's super talented, but sometimes you see somebody who's so talented, they make it look effortless.
Yeah.
Did you feel like a couple times I was like, Ben could write this story, or Ben could write a story like this short, compact, and suspenseful? And I
think this is the only, so talking about a sigh, yes, I did feel like inspired to write. I don't know if I could write like him.
Not like him,
he
but
sort
just
of captures
like the inspiration.
So many different kinds of black folk. Like he captures I don't know if I can do that. Probably not.
Not black people, but just like
tight,
compact stories that still make you horny and make you scared and make you
hopefully.
Like he didn't do, it's like Twitter. It's like you could do so much with these 140 characters. Like this doesn't have to be some thick epic novel.
No.
But it still had tons of characters, super easy to follow, like captivating stories.
Yeah, he told a very direct story, and many of the stories had surprising endings, but not unexpected endings. Right?
Yeah.
Like he surprising but not unexpected, I think was really fantastic. I was definitely inspired to like write more direct, exact linear stories the way he did, instead of like trying to. His stories are definitely plot driven, and they're great. They're great stories if you've never really read horror stories before, and if you had read horror stories, he sort of plays with some of the werewolf tropes, the succubi tropes.
Yes.
So he's doing stuff. So he has some Twilight, a nice little Twilight reference here and there, especially the flight one, where he. Flight 463. So there's wonderful stuff going on here. Highly recommend it.
Yeah. Well, Ben, with that being said, why don't you warp up the show?
In conclusion, Twisted Tales by Brandon Massey is a must-have, must-read. You can read it quickly. You can read a story, put it down, come back to it a few weeks later. A great collection of short stories. Definitely check it out, y'all.
Thanks, y'all. Thank you so much for listening to another episode of the Sci-Fi Sci Podcast. Up next is episode 100. We will hit 100 episodes. And remember, for that episodes, we're going live. On Sunday, August 28th at 7 p.m. ET. So 6 p.m. CT, so on and so forth. So please be sure to bring us any questions that you have about podcasting for that episode when we go live on Instagram at the Sci-Fi Sci Podcast Instagram account. And we will see y'all next week for the show. Bye.